Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. I'm just waiting for everyone to enter into our Zoom meeting. And as soon as I get the go ahead, we'll get going.
All right, it looks like we've slowed down, so I think you're good, Ruby.
Great. Thanks so much, Hannah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the State of Arizona's Low-Income Housing Tax Credit public hearing. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. This session is being recorded and all participant lines are muted due to the number of attendees. Comments will be collected via the chat feature and addressed today, if possible, and or through a public notice posted on the Department of Housing's website. You may hear me default to industry acronyms or casual references today, one being calling the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program the LIHTC program, and the Qualified Allocation Plan, the QAP. I will try to limit those abbreviations and references for listener clarity and understanding, but please note the materials I share today will be public and you can reference them for further clarification and understanding. I would also like to take a moment to introduce participants on behalf of ADOH, the Department of Housing. Here present on today's call, we have Director Tom Simplot, Deputy Director Cindy Stotler, Legislative Liaison Brian Norman, Assistant Attorney General Valerie Marciano, and Executive Assistants Hannah Keene and Karina Jaju. We also have two of our rental program underwriters, Jacob Shope and Melanie Brewer, joining us today. At this time, I'm going to pause for Director Simplot to offer a welcome to you all and an opportunity to share a little bit about today's session. So I'll do that now.
Thank you, Ruby, and thank you everybody for joining us today. It has been a long time coming to get to this point. Those of you who are with us today, you know this is a public hearing that is required by state law. We appreciate everybody who has registered for today, and just for your reference, more than 167 people registered for today's public hearing. So thank you. Clearly, there's a lot of interest in the community. Clearly, there's a lot of interest, quite frankly, from across the country in our new state LIHTC program. So thank you for being a part of this. We are listening to you. If you don't get your question answered today, as Ruby indicated, we will get back to you in some form or fashion so that you do get a response. So thank you again for participating, and I'm going to turn it back to Ruby.
Thanks so much, Director. Hannah, if you could advance to the first slide. Great, thank you so much. The purpose of today's hearing is to provide an overview of Senate Bill 1124. It was signed by Governor Ducey on July 12, 2021, enacting the Arizona State Low-Income Housing Tax Credit, and to advise stakeholders and partners on how the Department of Housing has contemplated the administration and implementation of the state credit. Here on this slide, you will see highlights of SB 1124. I'm going to read through those highlights. Arizona Revised Statute 41-3954H requires a public hearing to solicit and accept public comments relating to the amount of the state affordable housing credit to be used for qualified projects. You will hear me talk today that we have $160 million in state credits available over the lifetime of the program. We will have 4 million of tax credits available in any calendar year, and that will be allocated over 4 years, which gets us to the 160 million over the lifetime of the program. ARS, Arizona Revised Statute 3954A, gives the Arizona Department of Housing authorization to administer the credit. We will be talking today about how that administration will take place via a vehicle we already use in the federal program space, which is the Qualified Allocation Plan. I will get into that a little bit more a little bit later in the presentation. This process does require the cooperation of the Department of Insurance and financial institutions and the Department of Revenue. You will hear me talk a little bit later about a statement of eligibility that will be issued by the Department of Housing after our underwriting is complete. And that statement of eligibility will then be awarded to the developer owner to share with the Department of Insurance and financial institutions and Department of Revenue. Eligible projects that apply for state low-income housing tax credits must qualify for a federal LIHTC credit. Again, we'll talk about this a little bit more, and must be placed in service by and after June 30th, 2022. All right, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So some additional highlights of Senate Bill 1124 effectively authorizes $160 million worth of credits over the lifetime of the program, which I mentioned. State credits are allocated according to the current qualified allocation plan. We are currently working on the 2022 qualified allocation plan. We have had about 12 different informal focus groups for the preparation of issuing the first draft of the qualified allocation plan. We are having this public hearing, and we are having an in-person focus group at our Arizona Housing Forum on August 20th in Tucson, Arizona. Information about the in-person focus group is on our website to learn more information about submitting comments and thoughts about how to implement the state credit program into our qualified allocation plan. State credits allocated to projects in an amount equal to at least 50% of the federal credit is allowed in each taxable year. And taxpayers who own an interest in a qualified project and receive an eligibility statement, as I mentioned before, from the department, will be allowed to claim a tax credit for taxable years beginning on and after December 31st, 2021. Next slide, please. So we are very early on in the planning process, and as we gather comments and consult with our industry experts, we will keep our stakeholders and partners apprised of our advancement through public notices posted on the department website. I see that we are receiving comments in the chat about whether this PowerPoint will be available and additional information. Yes, it will. Deputy Director Cindy Stotler is monitoring the chat and is responding to those of you that have already dropped comments in. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the federal low-income housing tax credit, I would like to start with a very, very high-level mention of Internal Revenue Code Section 42. As part of the Tax Reform Act of 1986, the United States Congress created the low-income housing tax credit, and that's embodied in Section 42 of the Internal Revenue Code. And that was to promote the development of affordable rental housing for low-income individuals, families, and seniors. The federal LIHTC encourages investment of private capital in the development of rental housing by providing a credit to offset an investor's federal income tax liability. So you will hear me today talk about how the state LIHTC will be modeled after the federal LIHTC. It's intended to generate investment in affordable housing and provide credit on taxes owed for these investments. So our state low-income housing tax credit will piggyback on our 4% low-income housing tax credit. So I will get into that a little bit more. Next slide, please. To give you a little bit of context, in 2021, so far, through our federal LIHTC program, in our 9% competitive round, where awards were announced in June 2021, we were able to create 1,068 units of affordable housing across the state of Arizona. An additional 544 units have been created through our 4% LIHTC program. We hope that with the addition of the state LIHTC, that we will be able to double or triple the amount of credits produced by our 4% program. So the 10-year tax credit term that is available in the 9% round and applicable to the 9% deals and also the 4% deals is also available here with the state low-income housing tax credit. We will have a compliance period that the developer owner will be obligated to adhere to, and during which time the tax credit projects must continue to be affordable. So currently, our low-income housing tax credit program has a 30-year term, which means projects must remain affordable for a 30-year compliance period. The first 15 years are mandated by Section 42, and the state of Arizona adds an additional 15 years for a total of 30 years. Next slide, please. Okay, we believe that the impact of the state LIHTC will be much more substantial when paired with the 4% federal credit. As I mentioned earlier, we have 160 million in state credits available over the lifetime of the program. And we hope that with that resource, as well as additional resources that I will talk about, we can really bolster that number of 4% tax credit projects and units developed here in the state. What we learned in our research of other state LIHTC programs is that pairing the state LIHTC and the 4% LIHTC make both programs more efficient and more impactful. These deals cover 45 to 50% of the project costs when paired together. This lines up more with the 9% deals, which support about 70% of the project costs. So we think there will be a really robust response to the 4% LIHTC program with the coupling of the state LIHTC. We anticipate that we're going to see a number of the bond deals increase significantly. And we also will offer soft financing resources in addition to the state LIHTC. On July 15th, 2021, the Department of Housing issued a NOFA, Notice of Funds Availability, for 21 million in housing trust funds available to the developer and stakeholder community. We believe this additional $21 million and the state LIHTC will close the financing gap on the 4% LIHTC deals. And we believe that deals that wouldn't pencil before and couldn't be done will be able to get done in this next fiscal year and into the future as this program runs forward. As mentioned, we will be incorporating the state LIHTC rules, policies, procedures, implementation, and administration in the 2022 QAP, and we will accept comments regarding what I shared today, as well as best practices that you've heard in your work in other states until September 15th, 2021. Those comments can be submitted to the email address on the next slide. And here you will note that this comment period will run longer than the 9% comment period that is August 20th. So please take note of this, that we will accept comments regarding the state LIHTC until September 15th, 2021. So at this time, I'm going to pause and lean on my Deputy Director, Cindy Stotler, to assist me with addressing some questions that have come through the chat.
There we go. Sorry, folks, I was muted with everyone else. Ruby, we do not have a number of questions. The first question was, from some reporters, I believe, that will we make available both the PowerPoint and the recording of the session? And the answer is yes. I believe we will make those available on our website. Is that correct?
That is correct. And what we will do is provide an information bulletin that will show you the link on how to navigate to where to submit comments to make it easy for you all to find that spot. But we do have the email address here, rental-qap@azhousing.gov. That's where we will accept comments.
So a couple more comments. Do we anticipate continuing to award points for smoke-free proposals?
We will be looking into that as an overall factor for the QAP. We have been having informal focus groups about comments about all areas of the QAP. And if that is one that you would like the department to consider, we encourage you to submit that comment in writing. It is something that we will look into.
And Ruby, a really good question. Do we have enough volume cap to support, expand into 4% deals?
As we've had discussions with our stakeholders, our partners, the IDAs in the state, we have learned that we don't appear to be having an issue with volume cap. Again, it is best to reach out to the IDAs to know what is available. But at this time, we have not seen an issue there. Now, I will share with you that we have seen an influx here at the Department of Housing of 4% submittals to us, more than ever before. And it was the trigger there was the fixed floor for the 4% credit, which closed the gap just a little bit. So you will see that in our queue right now at the Department of Housing, we have more than we've had in previous years. So it's really important that you're not also communicating with us, but on the tax exempt bond side, if you are interested in pursuing the 4% credits, that you're talking to the local IDAs to understand what the availability is.
And then another really good question, is this going to be competitive or is it going to be by right with the other 4%?
This will be by right, and that's the way it's currently contemplated with layering in the 4%. Now we are soliciting comments. This is an open process, a public hearing. So if there are thoughts or input on that, we would like to see as many 4% deals get done as possible. So we had not anticipated making it competitive. But again, we will be underwriting. We will be looking at the analysis of the deal and making sure we're layering in as a federal fiduciary obligation, the appropriate amount of tax credits that the project needs to move forward. And so those are things we will look at. But again, as in terms of scoring, we do not anticipate that will be involved in the process.
Another question, what's the reasoning behind the requirement of a 50% match of federal credit? What if my project only needs 35%?
So at this time, the way that the bill was written and the way that it was enacted, it did have the language stated therein. And I believe what the impetus of that and the way it made it into the bill was doing an analysis of how the deals work most efficiently and effectively. And so that 50% was noted in the bill, and that's what we'll carry forward in the implementation. And I could provide a little further guidance and clarification on that in a written notice after this session.
There are some questions about working with the financial institutions and the IDAs to help leverage these projects. And I believe we will be doing that extensively, correct?
Yes, that is correct. We are going to be navigating all of these new relationships and bolstering the existing relationships we have with the IDA in an effort to make this program as successful as possible.
I think we've answered most of the other ones. There's some questions about the needs for housing across the state, which I don't have the exact numbers, but I believe it's in the hundreds of thousands of units. So I think this is a welcome program to create more housing statewide.
And I just want to revisit one thing I shared earlier was that we are having a in-person focus group, as I mentioned, at the Department of Housing's annual forum. That is on August 20th in the afternoon. We would love for your participation if you are attending the conference this year, so we can summarize all of the comments that we've received in response to our informal focus groups. And also in today's session, we'll be capturing all the comments received here and through our portal, our email portal, and we'll be presenting a PowerPoint presentation at the forum with all of the comments, and would really like to encourage you to participate and collaborate with us. One remarkable thing that we've been doing over the last several months is really engaging with our partners, and we want you to feel part of this process. We want to set forth the best program. We want to create affordable housing, and we welcome your comments.
Ruby, just got another question. How long is the compliance period for using state credits and not taking any abatements, exemption, or other reduction in state or local ad valorem taxes?
So at this time, we're in the process of, as I mentioned, we're very early on in our planning stages of rolling out the state LIHTC, and we are collaborating with the Department of Revenue and Department of Insurance. And so we are having those discussions, and I'll be able to provide a little bit more clarity on how that will work. But the compliance period will mirror that is the way the current QAP rolls out with a 30-year compliance period. The initial compliance period is 15 years, and then there's an extended use period. We are trying to preserve affordability for 30 years at minimum.
And another question, will the application for the state credits be combined with the 4% LIHTC application, or will there be a separate application process?
We are working on that right now, and we anticipate it will be on a rolling basis, and we will confirm that very soon here.
Not really seeing a lot of other questions, so.
Okay, great. So this was a lot of information in a short amount of time. Oh, I think we might have got another question, so I'll pause for a second.
Will preservation be an eligible use for the state tax credit?
That is something we're looking into and definitely want to encourage. We also would like to see that encouraged in our QAP through use of even the 9% credit in the next cycle. So in the 22 QAP, you will see preservation bolstered there as well.
And another good question, any indication from state tax credit investors on the potential pricing?
Thank you for that question. Yes, we are doing an analysis right now of state credit pricing. Generally, we see between 50 and 60 cents as the pricing. But again, that is just the market changes. As you know, we're recovering and still coming out of a pandemic. Pricing is fluctuating. Urban versus rural markets, pricing is very different. And so right now, that's our initial assessment, but we are reaching out to investment partners to learn of where pricing is across the state. And we did not want to rush this in any way. So we want to tell you that please reach out to us, share your comments, share your concerns. We are super excited here at the Department of Housing to roll this program out, and we need your support in doing so. And please continue to submit your comments. We will receive them, take them into consideration, and we look forward to having this available as a tool to you all in the development of affordable housing.